What we'll go ahead and do then is take comments from the public, because there are quite a few folks here tonight. If you could keep your comments to about 2 minutes, that would be great, because we want to give everybody a chance to comment on something. And we'll go ahead and point to people as we do it. Yes, ma'am.
First of all, I like a lot of the ideas, especially about the open space. Blake Lyons and the planning department synthesized the 400 and some comments that they got on the Redwood salt pond development that addresses the traffic with structures and the noise and the earthquake, liquefaction, high liquefaction. We're not 50 miles away like Loma Prieta was in '89. We're right across the bay and in between San Andreas and Hayward Falls, where structures would be highly destroyed in a 7-point, and I don't think they're developing them more than a 6-point magnitude now. So I like the idea of open space, like golf courses or the waterways, using all the boating things, the Marine Mammal Center, Marine Science Center, any of that. We could do a Woods Hole type of oceanographic institute or whatever. I love those ideas because it's in keeping with what you all, I'm hearing all of you say, the connection we have with the water and helping our students and others learn more about how to adapt to their future of climate change and sea level rise. Levees fail, and an earthquake, structures fail, earth fails, everything fails. You had the bridge up here set 60, 70 miles away that collapsed in Loma Prieta in '89. People say, we had it here. No, in Mountain View, where I was staying in a hotel, the swimming pool water went up above the 2nd floor. The floating houses, I go for floating houses in earthquake area. I don't know how they'll do going up to 2 floors in waves and stuff, but I'd like you all to read the comments that were very well done on the salt pond development if you're thinking of structures, but I highly recommend, having had a career with FEMA and worked 4 earthquakes out here in California, I highly recommend the ocean space and the work with our marine life and all.
Yes, blue shirt in the back. Yes, ma'am.
Claire.
Claire?
Claire.
Claire.
Two comments. Sounds like it's a good idea to have the story and talk with the group at some point. The question about do we develop it for tourists, and my answer is no. We want to make it work for residents, and if it works for residents, the tourists will come. I think the way that people are tourists is changing. I myself totally avoid hotels. I go for vacation rather by owner or home away. I want to see what it's like to be part of it, and I love just to be able to walk to a neighborhood and see what people like, and I hope that we can do something like that. I do definitely think we need to think of it in terms of how does it relate to the other side of the freeway. How do we have transitions, walkways that go from the city either underneath the bridge over there by Redwood Creek, or I think we need probably to build some overpasses, especially if we're going to have sea level rise, because we may no longer be able to walk underneath those bridges. I liked what I saw in Portland. I was there just a few days ago, a little bit farther north, the Burnside Bridge, the steel bridge, and we have the walkable, floating walkways and bicycle ways there. I think it's something that we can bring into that. And while you're talking about MSI and EIAC being part of having permanent city homes, and I would hope at the same time that two scout ships, the Redwood and the Griffin, might also be getting some permanent homes too, because I think they're a very good addition to our city. Thank you.
Actually, in the very back row, yes.
My name is Lisa Benson, and I'm a Redwood City resident, and I'm also an intern with the Loma Prieta chapter of the Sierra Club. And I go to UC Santa Barbara, but I've grown up here and I plan to move back here after college. And something I've realized is that growing up, my parents have always had to go a ways away to see the bay. And when my mom wants to go bird watch or go for a walk with my dad, they can't just walk to the bay, they drive or go far away. And when I move here after college, I want to be able to enjoy the bay, have open space, a park, a waterfront destination for residents and people in the area to enjoy our wonderful coastal waterfront that, we have a long waterfront and no open space. And so the Main Street specific plan calls for a pathway along Redwood Creek from downtown to this area, to the Paul Powers condos, and there would be a pedestrian bridge that would connect to this Inner Harbor area. So I think that would be really great if, after college I have dinner with my friends, or, maybe someday I take my kids downtown for a movie, and then we can walk a mile along Redwood Creek and go and enjoy a waterfront park and enjoy open space, wetlands, bird watch, go for a walk. So that's my vision, and I think wetlands would be great for flood control too. So I really hope we can have a beautiful waterfront park.
Tonight I heard a lot of comments. People kept saying history and heritage and things like that. Pete's Harbor is part of your history and part of your heritage, and it's been here a long time, since before a lot of us were here. And part of the heritage and the history, as evidenced by hundreds of cars that were there to see the 4th of July fireworks, and they weren't allowed in. So just need to remind you about that. And I start to think that the Inner Harbor specific plan is specifically not Pete's Harbor. We all know that boats float, and that's probably why they're such a good idea instead of big developments. I agree with Karen's comments. A lot of what she said, she stole my thunder. Damn it, Karen.
Great minds.
Exactly. I kind of object to public comment being so late, because for a lot of people who might not be able to stay till the very end, they didn't have the opportunity to make public comment. So it would be nice if it was maybe towards the middle or towards the beginning. I think that would be better for public. I think that we need to definitely be very, very proactive about this entire plan. Obviously, one of the excuses for building a new jail is because that the old jail floods, but you're still building it in a floodplain. So, haha, poor planning. And that everything's about public access. And your dream of going down to the Paul Powers condos, also known as Pete's Harbor, everything's about public access. And so if we maintain these things, and if we keep the boats that float, and also known as Docktown and Pete's Harbor, that would maintain public access. Because we wouldn't have to be like scurrying behind somebody's home. We would have the public access, we would have the trails, we would have the kayaking facilities, also known as the creek and the slough and all those things. And maintaining public access is, I think, really a common thread that ties all of us, because it's the water, it's the trails, it's the scenery, it's the nature. That's not me. Anyway, and I think that that's the most important thing. It's not development, it's the nature, and it's the public access.
That was Blake's phone going off for 2 minutes. So. Thank you. Yes, we'll go. Thank you, Morgan. Sure.
Kind of along the same lines, sorry. But in terms of the salt ponds, I think, the idea of having this open, restored to a wetland is a great idea. I also think that it'd be nice to incorporate maybe some kayak routes in there, around the edge or whatever, to get from one end to the other. It's something to think about. I just thought about that the other day. Why not be able to have those things together? They're not mutually exclusive. So that's one thought. And I like the idea of the marine, science institute or whatever. Some sort of area there, since it's perfect for that as well. So I think there's a lot of things that could draw people to the area, as well as really be educational for not only children of the area, but also adults as well that live here. And just my thoughts.
There was a, yes, please.
Hi, James Lee, Redwood City. I just wanted to say that I realize this is just a visioning session, so nothing's being decided right now, but I have some concerns about some of the visions that were laid forth. I've been to Granville Island, I've been to Seattle, I've been to, Newport Beach that was mentioned, Balboa Island. I found those places to be nice to go see once, but I remember thinking, I can't wait to get back to the peninsula and the type of waterfronts we have here. So I personally hope that the folks on the task force who represent the Redwood City residents or environmental concerns, keep that in mind, that with the concerns already brought up about sea level rise, about liquefaction and earthquakes, which when you have an earthquake, sea level surges. It's not just a slow and steady rise. So when we have all these concerns to keep in mind, I hope that these come into play before we decide to, I mean, I've been to Granville Island. It was nice to go, but it felt like a carnival. Like they had a farmer's market there, but there was no place to really walk out onto the water. It was a very urban feel. It made sense for that type of location, that type of area. I don't think it makes sense for Redwood City. I do also want to mention that I noticed that the representative for the State Lands Commission hasn't been able to attend the last 2 meetings. So I hope that these presentations are being given to them in a timely manner so they can see what the community is talking about, and hopefully they can hear our comments as well. So not just the presentations are being communicated, but the input from the citizens here. Also, real quick, I'd like to echo that I kind of would like to see maybe 2 public comment sessions. I know that would probably lengthen the meeting, but there are a lot of comments to make about these presentations and these visions. And I know a lot of people had stuff to say from ruminating over last month's meeting that they wanted to say. So hopefully we can think about having maybe 2 sessions or a longer public comment period. I think the input is really important here, especially with all the different issues at stake: development, sea level rise, environmental. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go all the way in the back and then we'll come over here.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to address the task force. I'm Sabrina Brennan. I'm a San Mateo County Harbor Commissioner. And I wasn't able to make your last meeting, but found this meeting really interesting. And I enjoyed seeing the presentations and learning more about existing waterfronts, many of which I've actually been to. I did want to point out, though, that these are existing waterfront developments, so they're not projects that are in the works. They've been around, some of them for a really long time, and if they were being developed today, given what we know based on current science, they might not be developed the way that they are. They might be modified quite extensively, or maybe not done at all. So I just wanted to make that clarification. And then also, to kind of tag on to a couple of the other comments, I am concerned about the fact that public comments started so late during the meeting, because some members of the public have families that they have to get home to, they have children, that sort of thing. They're not able to stay this late at a public meeting, and so they need to come and make comment at the beginning and then leave. So I think the tradition with public meetings is to have comment at the beginning and then to have a second comment period after presentations are made. So I just wanted to point that out. And then regarding videotaping, I noticed that there are 2 video cameras here tonight, and my understanding is that both cameras are being operated by members of the public. And I would strongly recommend that this task force videotape these meetings so that it's not, so the public isn't burdened with having to do that job. So I would just encourage you guys to take care of that for the public and make those videos available online on a website so that they're easy to access. And I'm going to try to move quickly here. Also notice that there is not a member of BCDC on your task force. I don't know if they're not here tonight, and there actually is somebody on the task force, but I would highly encourage you to include BCDC in the task force, and hopefully that could happen at the next meeting. I have many other comments. If I had more time, I'd love to go into, but just in general, what I didn't hear addressed this evening is sea level rise. And we all need to do a serious reality check here, because this is really happening, and we cannot continue to develop the same way that we have historically. It just doesn't make sense. We have to start actively addressing sea level rise, and that should be talked about, and plans need to address it, and it should be discussed in the context of everything that's happening here.
If I could jump in for just a second. As I indicated earlier, sea level rise is absolutely something that we're going to be dealing with. This is a process that takes some time. We're in the visioning phase right now, and we're sharing ideas, but we're coming back to the science as part of the task force meeting, so we will certainly do that. And if people do have comments that they'd like to put in writing and get to Jill, at this email address. We will absolutely share detailed comments with the task force as we go through this process. We know this is a very public process, and it's very important that everybody be heard. And we're going to take under consideration the comment that two folks have said about the public comment period and how to best deal with that. Chris.
So I introduced myself last meeting. I'm Chris Havner. I'm a flight instructor here for 15 years out of San Carlos Airport, resident of Dogtown for a year and a half so far. I think what I want to say to you, to the task force in general, is that last time I said, really think about what you're about to develop here. Is it going to be somewhere where people are going to want to go, or is it going to be somewhere where people are just going to want to live and then need to go somewhere else? And I really appreciated Carol Wong's presentation about Amsterdam. I've actually been to and lived in a majority of the places that were in all of the presentations here. So I think, having said that, I think Amsterdam kind of has that cool, funky feeling that we were talking about last meeting. One of the comments I always hear about Sausalito is it's more European than Europe is. And that's why it's such a destination place that people in America want to go, so they can get away and feel like they traveled somewhere and can really experience something kind of different and kind of unique, unlike everywhere else in the country. So I just really want to thank you all for actually taking the time to look at all of these various places and these other options, the floating homes in particular, we're very fond of. And thanks for really doing the research and looking at it. I thought all the presentations were great. Thanks.
Yes, there's representative from, you get it wrong, Marine Sciences.
Yes, I'm Mary Musad. I'm the Executive Director at the Marine Science Institute. Thank you for a couple of the great comments about what we do. And I'd just like to share a little bit about our vision that we have as our dream. There, as you mentioned, we do not own the land that we are on, but we are hoping to get that permanent home. Currently, we work with about 55,000 kids a year who come and learn hands-on experiences about the bay in their backyard, right here in Redwood City, and how what they do affects it, how they can protect it, and how they can enjoy it. And I think that what we would like to do is have a permanent facility that not only that we could work with these students, but also have a site that is open to the general community. We often get phone calls from people that live around here. Can we come down and see what you have? Can we come down and bring our grandchildren from Iowa to come down and experience it? And we don't have that capacity right now, but we have drawings of a site that would be open, that people could come down and again experience firsthand what is out there, the treasure that's out there, what we are doing that affects it, and what we can do to help protect it. Because when you look at that water, it doesn't look like anything's underneath it, but it is a vibrant community underneath that water, and it's right here in our backyard, and it's such a treasure that it would be great to have something here that this whole community could come down and enjoy.
Thank you. Dan hand waving over here.
Yes. I'm Dominique. Love the Marine Science Institute. My kindergartner talks about it for weeks. I love seeing all the different things. It was really diverse today, so thank you all who prepared them. I was really struck how different they were, and it seemed to me that sense, and I agree with Jeff, it could be spectacular, like not just fine, but genuinely spectacular down here. And again, what a few people have said, including Chris, is that sense of history and the diversity that Carol pointed out is really clear, really important for places that people actually want to be. And I was actually surprised to see Portland's South Waterfront brought up, because in Portland it's largely considered a failure. The condos ended up being sold several years later at half their build prices. They're beautiful, I've been in them, but it's not a place you want to be. It's very beautiful, it's very perfect, and no one really, it's not a space that feels like somewhere you want to spend time really. And the retail businesses, the restaurants, have gone under. Because they can do a lunch business with the construction workers and the hospital workers, which is what the tram actually goes to. But then they're done. And then I thought of that in contrast to Portland's Pearl District, which slowly developed using city planning, but old buildings, it's a warehouse district. They didn't kick the industry out, it's gradually shifted, and they didn't just start over, they worked with what they have, and it's very vibrant. The waterfront got hit really hard by the recession, but this warehouse district wasn't impacted nearly as much. And I really think part of the reason is it just feels like a vibrant living place with a history that you want to spend time in.
Thank you. Other comments? Oh, hold on just a quick second. Let's give our other folks a chance. If anybody else has any comments? Yes, sir. The bearded gentleman.
Hi, I'm Phil Bigelow. I'm an 8-month resident of Dogtown. And the reason that I came down to Dogtown was because I'm a senior, and although I do work, I needed to find affordable housing close to Palo Alto, which is where I work. And one of the reasons I picked Dogtown was because it was affordable, unlike many of the apartments and condos in this area, which are very, very pricey. And I'm talking about all the way down to Mountain View. I think you should keep in mind that the presence of Dogtown is providing one of the values that Dogtown provides, having floating homes and houseboats and so on there, is the added value is the fact that it's affordable housing for seniors. About 30% of the residents of Dogtown are seniors. I don't know if you're aware of this, but I want to make you aware of it. And I think you should consider all the reasons why Dogtown should stay at its current size, because it provides affordable housing for seniors. And it should be an important part of the Inner Harbor Plan. That's staying at its current size. Thank you.
Anyone who hasn't had a chance to say anything yet? All right. Looks like we have one more speaker, and then we'll come back to the task force for round one.
I just wanted to bring in the other comment that on our site we host another nonprofit, Kilahana, which is the outrigger canoe, and then multiple kayakers and canoers and individuals who own boats that have no other access to launch their boats and facilities. And so I think that is something that you also have to consider is bay access for the small recreational boaters.
Just to touch on her point, there's a launch ramp that exists and has probably been in existence at Dogtown for, decades on end, I suppose. And so that's a wonderful place right now. There's a bit of a transition going on, so I don't think, we've got the public access, but the infrastructure already exists and it's right around the corner. So that might be something to consider that, you don't have to start from scratch.
James.
We talked a lot about sea level rise, and when I take a look at this problem, one thing that strikes me is that in some way what we need to do is unleash the creativity of folks. Because I'll tell you, every single year we have new information, new ideas, and I would probably consider, don't necessarily think that there's only one way to solve this, and instead figure out how you can utilize the code system or some type of grand bargain with the community, like they're doing in the East Coast by saying, hey, by the way, all new construction has to be 100-year sea level rise forecast plus 2 feet, and you solve the problem, based on freeboard. Meaning, we may not necessarily be able to figure it out here, but what we could do is set a pattern, a way, or a set of rules in order so that others will be able to bring forth new ideas.
Hold it out in my head for just a minute before I write down the gist of it. Yes?
I just have a question on the Amsterdam floating homes. I'm just trying to understand. I looked at those homes, they're very beautiful. Are they not boats on the water? How are they different than boats on the water? Why are they so famous? How are they different than any other house on the water?
I'm probably not the expert. I just took my casual walk along there and took my nose as far as he could take it. My sense of it was there were, you could see separate slips for boats, the traditional vessel. What you saw were residences that happened to float and for all intents and purposes otherwise look like a full-blown residence. Some of them, I'm guessing, about 3,000 square feet plus. You could not, those are the big ones on the second part I showed you. The other ones were probably, I'm just guessing, maybe 1,200 square feet-ish. They houses that float, but
They
can't move. They have concrete rectangular holes. They have plumbing, water, sewer, all those kinds of things.
They don't have a motor.
Right, they don't have a
Think of
motor.
it like a motor, a mobile home.
They have some solar, but no
It's not that
sails,
mobile.
no motor. Just a front door and some bike space.
Anyone else who hasn't had a chance to say anything? Okay, I think we'll close with this comment right here.
I just wanted to touch on something important that you brought up, and you'll probably like it. That the two of the communities that are most under attack right now and are dwindling fast in Redwood City and the peninsula, but mostly Redwood City, are affordable housing communities. And that would be Pete's Harbor, which was one of the largest affordable housing communities on the peninsula, period, and Docktown. And what's replacing them, or what is trying to be replaced at Pete's Harbor and would likely be replaced at Docktown next, are not affordable housing communities. These are luxury condo communities. And it's something to keep in mind, because what's going to happen? You have that large apartment building that just burned down. That was an affordable housing community. 97 people are displaced. You have everyone from Pete's. You have the people from Peninsula. So these are all affordable housing communities, the largest communities in your area for affordable housing that are gone, and they're being replaced by luxury condos. So when you think about these things, and part of your precise plan, you have to think of precisely what are you planning, your specific plan. Are you planning that you want the right people in your neighborhood, the people that fit in, or are you trying to plan that you want to have a community that is inclusive of everyone? And if you want a community that is inclusive of everyone, then you will stop doing this. Plain and simple. You will save the communities that you have, the affordable communities that you have, or you will go the other route and you will welcome with your arms wide open all of these communities that are luxury condos. But right now, I would think that you would save affordable housing. That'd be Pete's, that'd be Docktown, and that'd be the other affordable housing communities that you still have left.
Yes. Thank you. I think we're going to go ahead and cut off comment because we promised to get everybody out here after a certain time. We have some wrap-ups. But again, if you do have anything else, please forward comments to Jill, and she'll make sure we get it out to the task force. Our next meeting is July 23rd. It's another Tuesday night, 2 weeks hence. Task force members who haven't had a chance to make a presentation, and that's 15 minus 3 is 12 of you. Don't feel obligated, but I think you can see that there was quite a bit of enthusiasm and passion almost for the ideas that the three individuals put forward, and Rick as well. And so we want to make sure that we allow enough time to have those presentations made. If you do not want to, please let Jill know so that we can have an accounting of how many folks in the task force are going to be making presentations so we can plan accordingly. After the July 23rd meeting, we're going to go quiet for a little while. We need to do a lot of background research, sea level rise, marine resources that are out there, some of the engineering issues. There is a lot of information that we're going to be moving from the visioning phase to the planning phase. But in order to plan, you have, as the task force, have to have the right information. And so we need the time to collect that information and to give it to you and have you digest it before we come back and discuss it. We're planning probably for early October at this point, and we're going to stay on Tuesday evenings because that seems to work best for everybody. But we will give you plenty of time ahead of time to review materials and to ask us questions before that meeting, and that will all be on. Well, we're not going to take comments from the public right now.
I just want to know, where are these presentations going to be online?
Yeah, I'm
going to cover that.
I'll have Jill cover that. So July 23rd, next meeting, quiet for a while, and then come back and roll up our sleeves, and the hard work really begins. Carol, question?
Two questions, actually. The first one was, I had an email exchange with Jill in the interim in between the two meetings where we were listening to public comment, and I was kind of doing my own kind of compulsive note-taking and kind of synthesizing. And as I was synthesizing, And as I was putting together my slides, it occurred to me that what's been charted out and what we've been talking about in different slices and dices is what I would call a set of design criteria that we feel are important, both as a composite of what we've heard from people who have attended the public, as well as what we've heard in presentations. So I wanted to just get it out on the table as to say, when we take I am quite, not anxious is the too strong a word, but I am wanting to take a look at all of this stuff that we've said, cull it into what I believe should be our design criteria by which, when we start to get to alternatives, we hold that list up and say, to what extent does this alternative get us a connection between downtown and so forth?
And actually, you're using the word design criteria, Carol, what I would probably call is guiding principles. There are a lot of key high-level guiding principle ideas, and I think that will really help the task force when they're looking at do the alternatives match what we've heard first. But there are a lot of diverse ideas that are out there, so we need to feed that back to you. So as a group, you can decide what are those guiding principles.
And taking that further as a group, because you said that we would be consensus-driven, I believe it's really important for the task force to agree that those are the principles and agree if people are disagreeing about relative importance, we get it out on the table as why is something relatively more important than something else, because I don't personally want to get to decision process where everyone's like basically making very different decisions to me very clearly. People are using different criteria.
We're going to have a very structured process to help.
Great. Okay. And then
we're going to be finished brainstorming after July 23rd.
Okay. And so then after, the next question is, where is our as-is study going to be? Because we got a complicated piece of real estate out here with resources and stuff. Where's our as-is process?
That's why I've said it's going to take us until October before we come back, because we are doing the existing conditions, the constraints type analysis. Okay. Because that, you need a vision, but you need to understand what can and can't be done based on what's in the field, what the, also what the regulatory restrictions are. It's not just what is the physical environment guiding, but what is BCBC or other jurisdictional issues, how are they going to influence the decision-making process? So you're getting ahead of us, but that's what we'll come here, Gail, and get back there.
Yeah, that was going to be my question, is the early information going to include regulatory constraints?
Absolutely.
And which agencies have jurisdiction? Because Redwood City has had some recent experiences where we've had surprises at the end, right? And is there any way that we can get those regulatory agencies that do have jurisdiction in the room with us at the beginning? That'd be great.
I guess I was wondering if you could describe the distinction between the specific plan and the precise plan.
We're putting together a specific plan for this project. The key difference, and I think we talked about this last time, and Jill, correct me if I'm wrong here, is a specific plan has to have a very strong implementation component, particularly with regard to financing. Not just what do you want to do, but how are you going to get it done? And that's the key difference, is that strong implementation component and financing. Jill?
Yes.
How can people access all of the information?
Okay, so give me a moment here, and thank you everyone for being here and staying so late. So, members of the public, many of you were here at our first meeting. Thanks for coming back. Folks who are new to our only hitting the ground running process, we're still early days here. So, a few little logistics for you. On your sign-in sheets, if you gave us your email address and you wrote it nice and crisp and clear like a second grader would, then I can probably get you emails later. There were a couple from the last meeting that bounced back at me. If you didn't get an email, go back and make sure that you have a nice, clear, and I'm sorry to be such a pest about it, but I think we all type now and we don't write anymore. Our website's up. This is a completely open process. This is accessible from the city of Redwood City. It's redwoodcity.org, the Redwood City homepage. There's this fabulous button called Hot Topics. It's got a pull-down menu box with it. Click on Hot Topics, and the #1 hot topic is what we're doing in here. You'll see the Inner Harbor planning process right there. And you'll go to the page, and over time, the page is going to develop with more and more things. Right now, you will see a map of the study area, a little bit of background about the planning process and how the city council has appointed this task force and why, what they're tasked to do. The agendas from past meetings, and forthcoming, you will see meeting notes. We're preparing the summaries. We're sorry we don't have the June 13th notes ready yet, but we'll have them for you on the 23rd. We'll also have meeting notes for you for this meeting on the 23rd. They'll all be on the website. The presentations that are put forth will all be on that same website. And we have a notification process, heads up of upcoming meetings, and of course you all know right now when the very next meeting will be, which we were able to announce that also at the last meeting. So we're really trying to get them out there, and as soon as we have the October date, we'll put that right up. Let's see, in terms of the just venue logistics and comfort, last time we sort of had a gallery back there, this time we kept the chairs over there. Looks like y'all made it work. If you don't like it, just come to me after, tell me what would be better, and we'll just keep adjusting it. And a little bit of food for you if you want something different. Well, I can get different cookies or whatever it is. Happy to do it. We want it to be comfortable. We know you're here for quite a while. Also, at the last meeting, just I want to make sure you know that the public comment was first at that first meeting, and at this meeting we flipped it around. We'll go back and look at that, and it's a tricky thing because we're trying to keep on task. So it's a work in progress, and we appreciate your feedback. We're really open to it. So again, let us know. Task force, I have just a couple things for you now. I have, I think, about 5 people who told me they want to present on the 23rd, so I'll be sending you an email this week just to confirm that you're on cue for that. If anyone else wants to do it, that's great. If you don't have time to put together a full-blown presentation like the first 3 brave souls did, and you just have a few photos you just really want to share it, that's, I think, great too. And the other thing I noticed is it might be really good to have a few pictures of things you do not like. That sort of helps me. Oh gosh, we heard the comments about that Portland area and what was good, and maybe it wasn't successful, and here's why. And so think about that if there's just some quintessential thing of, boy, they tried really hard to make this great, but it doesn't work. That's good information to share with your colleagues and with our public. With respect to folks who have missed any of these early visioning meetings, we'll make sure that, well, of course, everybody can get all the materials off the web, but give me and send me an email, and I can come and meet with you if you want to just kind of go over any of the notes or anything like that, and that'll be something I can do with you throughout the process at your convenience. And those are my quick things. And oh, one more. On the Inner Harbor website, there is a place to submit your electronic comments. You don't have to send them all to my email, and it's okay if you do too, but that input portal is great. It's there. You don't have to remember anything. You can just navigate right to it. So if you have feedback on the website, let us know, because we've got plenty of time to just keep making it better. Okay?
Actually, I'm going to keep comments to Carol, and if members of the public have additional comments, we're going to adjourn the meeting, and you can come up and talk to Jill or Blake or myself afterwards if we can.
So this one's for Jill. Jill, I was just reacting to where did Sabrina go? Wherever Sabrina went, the idea of not tasking necessarily our citizen volunteers to do the videos, or I mean, I watched James's website, which is how I kind of went back to gather my thoughts from that, but it didn't have the sorry, James, it didn't always capture everything that was on the screen or whatnot. So food for thought, but I kind of raised my hand for that would be good to have the video on the website too.
We'll talk about it.
Thank you, task force members, members of the public. We will see everybody, I hope, back here in 2 weeks.